My name is Isabella. I'm 10 years old. I live with my mother in a simple but lively neighborhood in a city that never sleeps. We live in a small apartment on the 3rd floor with thin walls and windows that creak when the wind is strong. I always thought my life was ordinary. School in the morning, rice and beans for lunch, drawings in the afternoon, and prayers before bed. My mother works a lot, but she always finds a way to make me smile. My father, well, he left when I was 5, and since then, it's just the two of us. That Friday, I left school jumping on the floor, pretending that the cement was lava and only I knew where to step. It was my secret game, my world. The sky was strange, kind of gray, as if it were sad, but I didn't care. I wanted to get home soon to tell my mom that I got a 9 on the math test. She always said, "Isabella, cross the street carefully, look both ways." And I would always say, "Yes, Mom." But that day she couldn't pick me up. A problem with the plumbing, she said, and I insisted on going alone. I wanted to prove that I was already big, only 10 years old, but in a hurry to grow up. The corner was busy. Lots of people, lots of cars. The traffic light was flashing yellow. A man was selling candy at the traffic light. I tightened the backpack strap and started to cross. That's when it all happened. Someone screamed. A car sped up. A flash. A dull sound, as if the world had been turned off. And suddenly, my body flew away, or at least that's what it felt like. Everything became distant. The voices, the smells, the floor. Then came the pain. Strong, cutting, as if my body was screaming inside. And then, silence. A heavy silence which swallowed everything. But even in the silence, I felt it. I felt like something had changed, as if I had left the scene, but the story was still going on. I didn't know if she was alive or dead. I just knew I was somewhere else. And it was in this void that I heard, very softly, my mother's voice. Not in the ears, in the heart. She cried, screamed my name, begged God not to take me. It was there that I realized something sacred was happening. Something that no one around me could explain. What came after the fall was not death, at least, not how people imagine. It wasn't total darkness, nor was it bright light. It was a place in between, a living silence where time seemed to breathe slowly. I couldn't feel my body. I couldn't open my eyes, but I listened. Or perhaps I felt the sounds as if they were born inside me. Sirens, hurried steps, people crying, an engine revving, and above all, my mother's prayer. "Please, God, don't take her, I beg you." That plea went through me more than any physical pain, because it was made of pure, desperate, real love. I wanted to respond, to say that I was there, that I could still hear her, but there was no voice, just awareness. Somewhere, doctors spoke terms I didn't understand. Head trauma, internal bleeding, stabilize her now. And a nurse with a girl's voice said softly, "She's so small." Then I was pulled again, as if my soul was being carried away from the noise. And suddenly everything was calm. I saw myself floating above my own body. I saw the paramedics running with me on a stretcher. I saw my mother trying to get into the ambulance and being restrained. I saw my own face, pale, still. It was strange. I was there, but I wasn't me anymore. In the ambulance, I felt hot in my head, a presence at my side, something invisible, but deeply real. It wasn't fear, it was peace, as if someone was holding my hand from the inside. Meanwhile, outside, everything was busy, but on this side, there was a silent invitation, a calling. It was no ordinary voice. It was a feeling that said, "Rest, you're safe, I'm here." At that moment, something broke inside me, not of pain, but of surrender, as if I knew I no longer had control over what would come. And somehow I accepted, not because I wanted to die, but because I knew that I was about to discover something that no one else knew. At the hospital, everything happened quickly. Doctors surrounded my body, connecting wires, tightening machines, speaking urgent words. But I wasn't there anymore. I saw everything from above, as if it were a silent shadow, floating in the corner of the room. I saw them put the paddles on my chest. When they shouted, "Load, load," I saw the desperation in the younger nurse's eyes, who didn't seem to want to give up. My mother came running, and when they stopped her from entering, she fell to her knees on the floor in the hallway. Her eyes were dry from crying, but her soul was screaming. It was a cry that only God hears. A scream that pierces walls, flesh, and sky. And then I heard the sound that no one wants to hear, that long, continuous whistle that says the heart has stopped. Everything stopped. Time, sound, the world. I didn't cry. There were no more tears in me. There was just an immense stillness, as if I were floating inside a prayer. I felt a gentle wind, but there was no window open. A gentle warmth ran through my disembodied skin, and at that moment, something opened. It was as if an invisible door opened wide inside the space where I floated. It was no ordinary door. It was as if the air itself bent and said, "Now." I took my last breath, not from lungs, but from the soul, and I was pulled, not violently, but firmly, as if I were being called by someone who had known me since before I was born, someone who was waiting for me. The light appeared slowly, golden, alive, pulsating. It didn't hurt my eyes. In fact, it made me feel hugged. And then I started walking. No feet, no floor, but I knew it was going somewhere that my heart already knew, even though I had never been there. I missed my mother. I felt scared, but I also felt a peace that cannot be expressed in human words. It was there that I realized I had died. And even so, something inside me said that this was just the beginning. When I took my last breath, I imagined it would be the end. Total silence. Absolute nothingness. But it was the opposite. As soon as I left the body, something began to shine before me. It was as if the air gained color, as if the light itself created a path. A golden tunnel appeared, pulsing like a giant heart made of love. And I was drawn to him, not with fear, but with a curiosity that was born from the soul. The tunnel was not made of bricks or metal. It was made of something that looked like living light. Each step, or what felt like a step since I couldn't feel my feet, reminded me of a forgotten memory. It was as if that light touched parts of me that were dormant, parts that I didn't even know existed. As I walked, I heard sounds, but these were no ordinary sounds. They were like songs, soft voices, harmonies that said my name tenderly. It wasn't scary. It was familiar, as if I were returning home after a lifetime away. The light was intensifying, but it never hurt my eyes. It was welcoming, a kind of spiritual warmth, like the lap of a mother who never abandoned you. And then suddenly, I felt it. I felt love. Not the love we feel for toys or things. It was the kind of love that understands everything about you, who knows your pains, your shames, your secrets, and still hugs you. It was the love that heals without asking, who accepts without demanding, who sees everything, and still chooses to stay. In this tunnel, there was no judgment, just presence. A strong, intense presence that observed me with sweetness and patience. I didn't see a face yet, but he knew someone was there, and that someone knew exactly who I was. Isabella. The voice didn't come from outside. She was born inside me. And when I heard it, everything stopped. It was as if the entire universe had gone silent just for that voice to say my name. With affection. Truly. With a kind of authority that doesn't hurt, but makes you cry. I started to remember my childhood. Of the happy moments. Of the nights when my mother covered me with the sheet and whispered prayers. I remembered the smell of fresh rice, the taste of the kiss on the forehead, the pain of when my father left. And even in those sad memories, there was light, because everything there was welcomed. Nothing was wasted. It was then that I realized that tunnel wasn't just any path. It was the ticket to the most important meeting of my life, and my death. And I wasn't walking far from Earth. I was walking towards a truth that the whole world pretends not to see. There, at the end of the tunnel, someone was waiting for me. Someone I didn't see with my eyes, but who my heart recognized as if I had waited for him for all eternity. And I knew, without a doubt, speechless. It was him. He was there, at the end of the tunnel, surrounded by a light that didn't come from the sun or lamps. It was a light that seemed to come from him, a living, serene glow that did not burn the eyes, but burned within the soul. He wore white, a simple robe, no jewelry, no crown, and yet, it was as if the entire universe stopped to hear him breathe. Your eyes, oh, your eyes. They didn't look at me. They read me. They knew me. They knew everything. The day I went to bed hungry, the time I hid in the school bathroom to cry, the fear I felt at night when the neighbors' screams echoed through the thin wall of our room. He knew everything, and yet he smiled at me. And it was the purest smile I've ever seen. It wasn't a pitying smile. It was a smile of someone who recognizes you, from someone who has been waiting for you for a long time and can finally say, "You have arrived, Isabella," he said, and his voice was like wind and honey and thunder all at the same time. "You are more than they said you were." At that moment, I didn't feel small or weak or a victim. I felt something I had never felt before: dignity, as if my existence were important, as if every tear my mother had, every pain I experienced, every injustice I suffered, had been seen, felt, registered in the heart of God. I didn't know how to act. I tried to speak, but no words came out. I could only cry. And he didn't interrupt me. He let me cry everything: my losses, my questions, my loneliness, until I emptied myself inside. Then he approached, knelt before me. Yes, the Son of God himself knelt before a poor, forgotten, run-over girl, and said to me, "You didn't die by chance. You were brought because the world needs to hear what you saw." I still didn't understand what that meant, but something in me changed forever. At that moment, I knew I was not invisible, and neither are you. If you've ever felt like your pain was ignored or that God forgot about you, leave a comment. I want to know your story. Because sometimes, just by sharing what we feel, we start to heal. Jesus reached out to me. When I touched his palm, I felt no flesh. I felt something much stronger, as if I touched directly at the origin of love. A gentle force enveloped me, and then he took me to another place. We don't walk. We just changed spaces. Suddenly, I was in a huge room with no visible walls, but with a feeling of shelter. Inside, the air was damp, as if filled with tears, and I heard crying, lots of crying, different, deep, old, screams of pain that seemed to span centuries. I looked around and saw the ground covered in small crystal spheres. Each one trembled with a unique sadness. "Where are we?" I asked with the voice of the soul. And Jesus replied, "This is the room of tears. Here are kept all the forgotten pains, every tear that was ignored, every silent cry, every suffering that the world pretended not to see." I then saw a child crying alone in a dark alley, then a woman being insulted for her color, a young man being followed in a store, a grandmother being ignored in a hospital, a father on his knees without a job, asking God for a miracle. Every scene hurt, but Jesus made me see them all. "They think I don't see," he said, "but I see. And every tear has a name." Those tears had colors. Some were golden, others almost black. There were those that sparkled like diamonds, and others that could barely hold themselves together. I asked why. Jesus looked at me and replied, "The golden ones are the tears of faith, those who cry but still believe. The dark ones are those of injustice, when someone is hurt by what they cannot change. And the brittle ones are the ones that are almost lost, when those who suffer think that no one will ever care." That broke me. And then he showed me something even stronger. A group of tears grouped together like a river. They all came from the same place, from the same people. They were black tears, deep, loaded with history. "These are the ones that have been screaming for centuries," he said. "Those that were born from chains, from holds, from whips, those that continue to fall every day, in different forms." I was silent. I didn't know what to say. Jesus approached and, with both hands, collected one of those dark tears. He held it reverently. Then he placed it against his own chest. And there, where the tear touched, a mark of light formed. "No one cries in vain." he whispered, "and no one will be forgotten." It was at that moment that I realized the whole sky cries with us. And even when the world doesn't care, God holds every pain as something sacred. After we left the room of tears, Jesus looked at me with a seriousness that silenced even my soul. "Now you must see what many avoid. But true love does not hide the truth. It reveals it." Once again, without steps, we changed places, and in front of us, a huge table appeared. It was made of something that looked like wood and light at the same time. Strong as stone, but alive, as if breathing. All around her were chairs, some occupied, others empty, and in the center of the table rested a book, a thick, heavy book, with pages that glittered with names and stories. "This is the table of judgment," said Jesus. "Not as men imagine. Here there is no condemnation for appearance, religion, or isolated mistakes. Here, love is measured, what was done, and what was denied." The pages of the book began to turn by themselves, and then I saw people sitting on the chairs. Each one was shown with its entire story: thoughts, intentions, fears, omissions. There were whites, blacks, men, women, rich and poor. What shocked me was not who was there, but what each person was carrying. Some came with small, shrunken hearts. Others, their eyes heavy with shame. Few had light. Few. Jesus explained, "The greatest judgment is what we do to each other. It's easy to love someone who looks like you. It's difficult to see God in the face of someone who is different." He showed a scene, a successful white businessman being praised for his generosity. But there, at the bureau, what he was hiding appeared. The racist jokes in the office, the silent contempt for black employees, the indifference to suffering that was not his own. And then I saw another scene. A black woman, a cleaning lady with calloused hands. On earth, she was never honored. But there, his chair glowed. Because she loved it. Because even though she was humiliated, she prayed for those who despised her. Status is not measured here. It is measured how much love you gave, even when no one gave it back to you. My hands were shaking. This was too big for me. And at the same time, it was simple. So clear, so fair, so different from the world I knew. Jesus looked at me and said, "Many think they will be rewarded just for believing in me. But whoever really knows me, loves others, fights for justice, protects the little ones, defends the invisible." I was silent. I understood. It wasn't about religion. It was about transformation. And there, at that table, with eyes full of tears, I knew heaven is not for the perfect. Heaven is for those who love, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. After the judgment table, I felt small, not because they diminished me, but because I realized how much the world ignores what really matters. And Jesus knew this. He didn't look at me with condemnation, but with the patience of someone who wants us to see. Really. He extended his hand again. "Now, I want to show you the scars that the world doesn't see." And we were taken to a different place. It was like a large reflecting pool, where each reflection told a story. And around this mirror, there were people. But they didn't look exactly like the people we know. They were like souls, with their feelings visible in the body. And what I saw shocked me. Many were injured, deep, open wounds, but not in the body, in the soul. I saw a young black woman who was smiling on the outside, but had cuts on her chest, back, and face. Each cut represented something she had heard since she was a child. "You're no good. You are ugly. You'll never get there." I saw a boy with marks on his neck. They came from the silence, from the times he wanted to speak and was ignored, the times he shouted for respect and only received contempt. Jesus explained to me, "These are the scars of indifference. They do not bleed in the eyes of men, but they corrode from within. And worse, they are called victimism, as if the person suffering was to blame for suffering." Each brand told a story, an unrecognized injustice, a mocked pain, a dream buried before it was even born. And I saw there the faces of my own people, from friends, neighbors, even my mother. and I realized how often their pain was treated as exaggeration, like drama, like something invented. "It's not about guilt," said Jesus firmly, looking into me. "It's about healing. But you can't cure what you don't recognize." He then showed his hands. 2 marks glowed on them. They were scars, his. My scars are proof that love feels. Love is not blind. Love sees, and it cares. And that's when I understood. True redemption doesn't come from pretending nothing happened. It comes from looking into the eyes of another's pain and saying, "I see you. I care. I want to help. And if heaven sees it, why do we pretend it doesn't?" After everything I saw, the hidden tears, the silent judgments, the wounds of the soul, I felt like I couldn't go back, that the world wouldn't understand, that the earth was too small for the truth that was revealed to me. Jesus was silent for a while. His eyes were sad, not out of weakness, but out of compassion. He felt humanity's pain as if it were his own, and maybe it was. I looked at him, and before I even asked, he replied, "You have a choice." My thoughts got confused. "Stay, or go back." He nodded. "Here you will feel no pain. Here there is peace. But there is purpose. Your story is not over yet. There are still things you need to say." I looked back, at the tunnel, at the room of tears, at the table, at everything that transformed me. And I asked myself, how would I be able to live after that? How could a 10-year-old child carry such a big calling? What if no one believes me? I asked, almost whispering. Jesus approached and touched my face with his fingertips. Even if they mock, even if they reject, the truth has power. And where it touches, it transforms. But I still hesitated. Down there, the world was harsh, cruel, and I was just a girl run over in a forgotten neighborhood. Then he did something that completely dismantled me. He opened my chest, not with pain, but with light, and showed me my mother's prayer. I saw her kneeling on the hospital floor, hands raised, face wet with tears, saying, "God, take my life, but give hers back. Don't let my daughter die. Please, I beg you." That prayer was a bridge, and I felt it all across the sky. "It is for her that you must return," said Jesus. "And for everyone who will listen to you. Your pain will become a path." In that instant, I understood. To return was to renounce perfect peace to carry a message. It was about exchanging rest for impact. It was loving again, even though I knew it would hurt. I took a deep breath, or rather, my soul breathed, and I said, "Yes, I'll be back." Jesus smiled. Not like before. It was a mission smile. Shipping. And then, everything started to disappear. The light dissolved. The heat went away. And I felt the weight of the world pulling me back, as if I were falling from the sky straight onto my body. But before everything went dark again, I heard his voice, firm, sweet, and eternal. "Tell everything, Isabella, and never forget. I am with you, always." Coming back, it was like being born again. But unlike the birth, there was no party, no joy, no hugs, just pain. My eyes opened as if tearing through the darkness itself. The cold light of the hospital blinded me for a moment. I heard voices, human voices, rushing, agitated. Machines beeping, people screaming. A doctor shouting, "She's back! She's back!" I wanted to smile. I wanted to say, "I saw Jesus." But my body barely moved. Everything hurt. The head, the chest, the legs. It was as if every part of me was protesting my choice to return. But then I heard a voice I would recognize on any plane of existence. "Daughter." It was my mother. She burst into the room with her face swollen from crying. When our eyes met, she fell to her knees beside the bed. I didn't say anything. He just held my hand and cried. I tried to squeeze hers, and I succeeded. Weak, but I managed. And it was there that I realized I was alive, again, but I wasn't the same anymore. In the following days, doctors called me a miracle. "We've never seen anything like this," they said. Clinically, she was dead, for minutes. But no one wanted to know what I saw on the other side. When I tried to tell them, they said I was delusional. Imaginations of a traumatized girl. One doctor even said that maybe I was making it all up as a way to deal with the scare. But I knew what I had seen. The tunnel, the tears, the table, the scars. And that certainty was stronger than any pain. I started talking anyway. First to my mother, who believed every word. Then at school, at the neighborhood church, on the internet. I recorded a video telling what I saw, simply, with my weak voice, still with bandages. At first, few people saw it, but little by little, something happened. People from all over the world started sending messages, some saying, "I saw it too." Others asking for prayer, confessing pain, screaming for recognition, crying out for justice. But along came the attacks. "He's just an influenceable child. This is a believer's invention. He just wants fame." It hurts, yes. It hurts when they doubt my truth. But I came back with a mission, and whoever carries a mission carries a cross. I'm not just a girl who was run over anymore. I'm a witness, a bridge, a voice that saw the sky and decided to return to remind the world that God still sees, that He still cares, that no one, absolutely no one, is invisible to Him. I didn't ask for this. I didn't look for fame or followers. I just wanted to tell you what I experienced, because after what I saw, remaining silent would be betraying everything. My video, recorded on my mother's old cell phone, started with few views, but within a week, it was everywhere. Prayer groups shared. Pastors reacted. People cried watching it. Others were mocking. I received messages from all over the world. "You told me what I always felt and never knew how to explain." I also saw Jesus. I thought I was crazy. Whilst this girl speaks with the truth of someone who has been touched by heaven, but stones also came. This is emotional manipulation. They put racist ideas in her head. History created to seal. Some used my color to doubt me. They said I wanted to make Jesus look militant, that I was trying to divide people, but they didn't understand anything. I never saw Jesus separating anyone. What He did was show us what we chose to ignore. He didn't point fingers. He healed wounds. He didn't punish. He showed us where we are broken and called us to fix it. The message He gave me spread like fire through dry straw. They invited my mother for interviews. They wanted to turn my story into a book. Some wanted documentaries. Others tried to remain silent. And in the midst of this hurricane, I understood. Heaven had given me a mission greater than my size. I started visiting churches, even though I was still recovering. He sat in a chair and told everything, sometimes shaking, sometimes crying, but always with the truth burning in my throat. And in every place, there was someone who needed to listen. A father who had given up on faith, a mother who lost her son, a young man who hated his own color, a woman who had never heard that God saw her tears. Some hugged me as if embracing a forgotten hope. Others passed straight by, cold, suspicious. But I followed, because it wasn't about me. It was about the voice that called me back, about the love that healed me without demanding anything, about the man in white who knelt before an injured girl and said, "You still have something to say." Today, every word I say is a seed. Some fall onto the rock, others on the thorn, but some fall into the heart, right? And there, they germinate. Because when the truth comes from heaven, it cannot be buried. The years passed. Today, I'm no longer the little girl with braids who used to play jumping over the sidewalk lines. I grew up. My body carries visible scars, from the accident, the surgeries, the slow recovery, but the deeper marks, no one sees them. Just me and God. I wrote a book, not to show off, but to remember, to record everything I saw before the world tried to make me forget. I called it Between Tears and Light. He traveled the world. It has been translated, studied, loved, attacked. People wrote saying they were reconciled with God after listening to me. Others, who finally understood that Jesus does not choose color, class, or religion. He chooses the heart He loves. But those who wanted to silence me also came. People who said my experience was dangerous, that I was politicizing Jesus. And you know what hurt me the most? Some of these came from the church itself. But Jesus had already prepared me for this. The truth is uncomfortable. The light hurts the eyes of those who have lived in the shadows for too long. And love, true love, demands change. And change scares. Today I remain firm. I give lectures. I respond to messages. I pray with strangers. And every time I tell my story, I feel like Jesus is on my side. Not on stage, but sitting with the forgotten, with the marginalized, with those the world calls exaggerated. That girl who died for a few minutes came back to remind the world of something we forgot. God is not in the most beautiful temples. He is in the tear that no one saw fall, in the wound that was hidden, in the scream that was never heard. And he still calls, still healing. It still transforms. Today, my last sentence in this video is this: Jesus doesn't take sides. He heals what we break. If you've made it this far, it's because this story touched your heart in some way. So don't leave without first subscribing to the channel, because there are still many other stories that will move you and make you reflect deeply. Leave a like right now. This helps the video reach more people who need to hear this message. And if you really stayed until the end, write in the comments, "I saw the light with Isabella." This will be our secret code, so we know that you are part of those who understood the essence of this story. And now, get ready, because what comes next may surprise you in ways you don't expect. Click on the next video that appears on the screen. Something very strong awaits you there.